actual
Brief check.
we should have a idea.
There's no instruction manual. You just have to read Hatcher, which is common knowledge.
Step one is to start learning how to do it. Which everyone knows how to do.
So it gets not fast.
Last week, you guys did yes,
Hello, can you guys hear me? Can everyone in the back hear me okay? You guys? Yeah? Okay, sorry about that. It took quite a while because just technical issues all around. But I just want everyone here to quickly go to that link because that has like the support document which will have most of the resources and assets that we'll need for this project. Who was not here last workshop for part 1? Just raise your hand. I just want to get a quick. Okay, right. So all the people who weren't here last workshop, in the support document thing that I have here, there should be a zip file that you can extract. And I'll just go through it showing you how it works as well. But the one that says part 1 finished project, you can just download that and then we'll go from there. Yeah, and if you don't have Godot installed, I'm just going to quickly run through installing Godot. So you just type Godot download, you'll go to this link, click on the blue Godot engine. It happens really, really fast. So once you have the zip file downloaded, you can just extract the entire thing and run it. Yep, you can do that. Give me a sec. Okay, anyway, I'll just import the part 1 project so I can just show you guys how that happens. Download the zip, open it, make sure it's extracted. So extract your zip file. Might take a little while. And then when I'm in Godot, you might have some of my projects here, but you'll get this window that pops up. You can do import existing project. So I'm going to click on that. Downloads. Okay. Yeah, okay.
If you recreate there's probably
Okay. So hopefully that opens up without any errors. But if you guys were here on part 1, you'll have your already like existing project. Some things may be a little bit different. I'm just gonna go through that. Okay. But more or less, when you run it from part 1, this should be what you kind of see. You can get like a little spaceship that's moving around, shooting down things, right? Okay.
you just click.
Oh, all right.
No, you don't.
Okay. UG4.
Not resources, not resources. The one on. Yes. Oh, you want to download.
Yeah, some animations, yada yada, but we're running short on time, so I'm going to skip most of them. Okay, so in this workshop, we'll be doing, I think, 6 main topics. We'll be covering, hang on, we'll be just doing a recap of part 1, then we'll cover like some advanced enemy behavior, because from part 1, all enemies do is that they just walk down from the top. They don't really do anything exciting, so we'll get some more advanced enemy behavior. Then we'll cover UI. In terms of UI, it'll just be a simple score system, but you can obviously extend on that if you want. We'll also do a little bit of animations to make our game feel like smooth and fluid. And then after that, we'll finish with audio and enemy shooting. Oh, sorry, it'll be enemy behavior and enemy shooting. Some of these slides are a bit out of place. Okay, we'll go on the recap. So last time we made a shooting like spaceship game similar to an existing game that's called 1942 by Sega. And in that workshop, we did shooting, movement, collision, scripting, signals, and other stuff like that. If you weren't there in the last workshop, there is a YouTube link of the entire thing, so you can watch that on your own time. And hopefully, most of you guys have been like experimenting, adding your own little features here and there. Yeah, so again, if you weren't here last time, this is a zip file, yada yada yada. And this is just a small thing that I forgot to cover last workshop. That when you're in Godot, and if you say when you're running your game, you want to see these hitboxes that that we had over here, like these boxes there. You can just go to debug and then check visible collision shapes. So when you have that and you're running, while you're testing your game, you know, things aren't working out, you can always just keep that on, and then now you can actually see the hitboxes. I'll turn that off for now because it looks a bit weird, but just a small thing. Okay, so let's cover enemy behavior, right? In the game that we are like inspiring from, 1942, you have like a bunch of different enemies and they do different things. Let me just... Okay, so like we're not going to do every single one of these enemies here. That's quite a lot to cover in just 2 hours. But we'll create 2 simple enemies. One of these enemies, like these small ships here, that just go around in like these parts. And then some enemies, I think... Okay, the color, the ship isn't here, but there's one enemy that fires at you, and so you have to dodge their bullets as well. Right, so we'll cover those 2 types of enemies, and we'll create paths for them to travel on. Yeah, okay. There was supposed to be a gameplay video here, but we didn't want to like have any copyright issues. Just all you gotta know is when the enemies come in, they follow a predetermined path, and we're gonna try to replicate and mimic that path. Yeah, so before we get started, I just want to do a little brainstorming session because in part 1 we talked about like this parent-child relationship and how, you know, a child inherits properties from its parent, right? So if we want to do the same thing, we want to have enemies that move along a path, and I'm telling you right now, I'm giving you this information that Godot has 2 nodes, a path 2D node and a path follow 2D node. It's pretty obvious what each of them do. One path 2D creates a path, and the follow 2D literally just follows along that path, right? We want an enemy to follow the path, and we have 3 nodes. So we have the enemy node, the path, and the path 2D node. We need to design our structure, like our tree, in such a way that our enemies can now follow our path, right? So there are a bunch of these different trees here, and I just want you to kind of think about especially the fact that if I have something that's a child, for example here, enemy is a child of path 2D. If I move this path 2D node, the enemy moves along with it, right? So I just want you to think about which of these following trees are like the most, have the properties that we most desire, right? Because like I said, path follow 2D will always follow along the path, and an enemy, if there's anything that's a parent, then it'll move along with that parent. So like you can just raise your hand or just shout it out, I don't really mind. But like for example, in this one here, right? We can eliminate this one because enemy is not a child of path follow 2D, which means it doesn't follow along the exact path, right? Similarly, in this one, path 2D, this works for us, right? Because we have a path, and then the path follow 2D follows along that path, and the enemy follows along the path follow 2D node, right? The one at the bottom here doesn't work out because we need that this follow 2D needs to be a direct child of path 2D. You can't have like a grandchild here. And the next thing I want to talk about is, in part 1, we talked about scenes. which is like these little isolated views of the game, right? We already have the enemy scene, right? So I just want you to think about it. It's something just keep in the back of your head as we work through this workshop, right? Why am I doing things the way I've done them? Like in this workshop, we're gonna make a separate path scene and then make the enemy scene a child of that scene, right? Why don't I just directly edit the enemy? Like just keep that in the back of your head. Okay, let's actually get started. So we'll start by making a simple U path. So like my enemy in this, let's just select one of them. So it'll start here, it'll probably go like a simple U shape and then go back up, right? So let's get started with that, right? Go to your game scene view, right? And then press Ctrl A to add a child node. Let's add a child 2D node. Okay, and everyone follow along now, and I'll give you some time as well to like do it on your own time. Create a node 2D, and we'll call this, right-click, rename, or press F2, and call this UPath. Okay, right-click this node, and down here you'll see Save Branch as a scene. So we'll do that. I'll put it in the scenes folder that we've already created. Yep, then we should have a scene called UPath TSN or something like that. Okay, I'm just going to rename this. This is just an empty node, right? And like I said, we need to create a path 2D node. So create a child, Control A, path 2D, right? And then like that, we're going to follow this tree over here. We're going to have the U path, which is our node 2D, then a path 2D as a child of that, then a path follow 2D, like that. And finally, we want an enemy to be the grandchild of this path 2D. So you can just drag this enemy.tsn and then put it here. And you need to make sure your scene tree looks exactly like this, because then you won't have, if you don't, it won't have the properties you want. Okay, I'm quickly just gonna reset the player enemy position by going transform, and then like you should see like this little reset button here. So I'll just do that. Okay, let's actually create our path, right? I think that's the, okay, just before that, in path follow 2D, go to the inspector, and down here, hopefully you should have rotates on. If not, just toggle it on. And also we want in the enemy, go to rotation here in the transform, and just set it to, I believe, no, -90 for the rotation. Okay. When I select this path 2D node, right, you'll see that some new buttons show up in our viewport window, right? And these are like the Godot tools that can be used to create your own custom path. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Click on this green button here, right? And make sure you're on select mode. You can just press Q or click here, like that. And I want to make a U shape, right? So I'll start by making a node somewhere over here, then one at the center like that, and then one like that. We get a little V shape, not exactly a U shape, but we can change that. When I click on this curve here, this is the actual path that's being created, and a curve obviously consists of multiple points, right? So I want to change this so it looks like a more smooth shape. Go to this one, select points here, and click on the point. Then shift click, and as I shift click and drag out, I get this little, it's called a spline curve, I believe, so you can start like adjusting the way it curves around. So I'm just going to make it like that. Sometimes you may have done it this other way around, just rotate it like that. And you can just adjust it however you want, right? But you should get a simple U shape like that. And I can demonstrate how the path follow 2D node works by selecting that. And then on this progress ratio here, as I drag it along, you can see our enemy follows that path. Okay, so hopefully everyone's done that. There's supposed to be some images here, that's okay. If your path is like stuffed up for some reason, you can always just click this button and it'll remove all the curve points. Okay. I'll just give everyone some time to get that done. Okay. After that, I've created more paths than just that simple U path. So I'm going to go into the support document that I was talking about, right? And there's this heading here called workshop resources. So download that zip file, not part 1, just resources.zip. Download that. Extract the zip file. Shut it all. And when you have this with this window open, have Godot and this open at the same time, something like that. So now what I can do is I believe it might already be there. Okay, it's not there. So go to resources, paths folder here, and just drag it down inside somewhere here in your file system. And it'll start importing them. Let me see where I put them. Okay. Might take a little bit of time, like navigating the file system to find it, but hopefully in resources, in paths folder, just drag it down here and it'll start importing them into Godot. If anyone has any issues so far, just raise your hand because we have people to help you out. I'm here, Blake is there, the guy who's raising his hand, and we have Taha as well. I will have to go through a little bit quickly because we did lose some time because of the issues, but yeah. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is just show you the different paths. So we have this U path that we just created, but we also have some custom paths that I've already created for you guys, like this curve path, right? It has 3 enemies following this simple sine wave, I guess. You also have a loop-de-loop kind of path, if I open that, something like that. And anytime you want, now when you have the path scenes made, you can just drag them into your game scene like that, and you have a path in your main game window. Okay. Again, I will just give everyone some time to hopefully get that. If you have any issues, just raise your hand, I'll come down and help you.
Sujay, I'm not really
Do you have the
Oh, yeah.
Two which ones?
how do you make it like a
You can just parallel enemy scene from your resources onto the path. If you're planning that. But yeah,
scenes or it's still the game? I don't think I have any.
You gotta drag that.
Let me just do it.
Laptop, sorry.
Blake.
You don't need this. There are some sort of step by step because they don't cause some issues if you don't.
I think from the imports there might be more. Yeah,
and then name it as enemy.
is this one right? This is where he was up just now.
Yeah. How do you generate the curve?
What did you do?
That's what I generate them? Yeah. How do you make them?
Drag it smooth the way I
Yes, smooth. Okay, yeah.
Oh,
So that's
You can use this
so
one.
this is what's the other side?
When I do that, I can drag out and then just slide paths.
Oh yeah, this is the
What I did is my perfect and I I don't know.
and then when you
drag the enemy down.
yeah.
Speed by I think we just break it by them.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I think then this the simpler one must have been the one that you downloaded and isn't necessary, so you can delete that.
Delete.
Yeah, you're not using it. Yeah. You can go back to
Okay, just a quick show of hands. How many of you guys have the paths and everything set up? Everything's working for you and there's no issues?
You'll be able to follow
If
along.
that's happening, just raise your hand. I just want to know how many people are done.
Yeah.
Okay.
If anything, there's a recording of the first workshop on YouTube.
Yes.
But yeah.
I don't know. I think it's this one. I think because I don't have to fix it.
Why is
You can do it.
You can delete
Are you ready
like
for
put down
What I think I did
the point. You just want to keep one. And then go back. Make it like curvy.
Just
Click one that's curvy left, and then just drag.
So I recommend the next one. Do you see it?
Wait.
I just clicked on So there's no video, there's no sound. So when you go to you right click and
Yeah.
and then you can just click on block
you create it? Yeah, and just inside.
Yeah, it is like
You go to the scene. You have to enter the scene.
that means it's a shortcut to like go to press Q.
So she can release yourself. It's made it's the great
Probably just follow along from there. Yeah.
I think that's some
Oh yeah.
it's that simple.
Okay.
And I want to say
Well,
that
actually,
because
It's alright. I feel like all the selections with the just because I remember you just drag
You know, I think it's just the character.
just the character.
So he starts off facing down. Yeah, so if you go back to the part, yeah, you can click on this segment file. And when you click on the front, you can drag it. No, the point.
Oh, I see, sir. Ah, okay. Thank you.
Because I drag enemies.
You might be getting a few errors with the sprites, like the enemy ships not showing up. We'll fix that in the next step, so don't worry about that.
So what you trying to do?
Anyway, this part stuff is a bit complicated, so more or less, if you can import your parts properly, like you can see
It's just like
these three parts showing then everything's good.
yo, back in. So I know don't touch anything. Yeah.
Alright, I'm gonna continue on now because we are running a bit short on time. As long as you have these three parts installed, I mean like imported properly, and if I drag them in and I can see that this curve shows up, then everything is fine. Okay? Alright, let's go to the next step. Okay, that's annoying.
Oh, wait,
Okay, now we're gonna do a little bit of coding to make our enemies actually move along the path, right? So go to the enemy.gd script here. I'll just go down here in our scripts folder that we created from last time, right? Double click and open enemy.gd, and then you should go to the scripts window here, hopefully. And we have last time we made a very basic enemy script. It didn't really do much, so let's actually make it do something more useful now. Right. So let's do this. Okay. I'm gonna do exactly what's there on the slides here, so you can just follow along either the slides or with me. Click this, and okay, so on ready. Wait, should I increase the okay, that's really small. I'm just gonna increase the size of everything.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna stop watching this workshop because I don't know how to do it.
Okay, hopefully that's very big, but hopefully now you guys can see everything a little bit better. Anyway, this is quite big, but whatever. Okay, can everyone in the back see the text clearly, or do you want me to make it bigger? All good? Okay. Yeah, so with my enemy script, I'm gonna go on ready, var parent is equal to get parent. Like that. Again, enemy.gd script, right? And then if parent is path follow 2D, then all we have to do is move along that path. So if this enemy is added as a child to a path follow 2D, we can now move it along by doing parent dot, I believe it's like a progress plus equals speed. Else, we wanted to move down like normal. Okay, so I'll just give everyone some time to type that down. At the end of this workshop, I will post all the finished code scripts so you can just like take a look at them in your own time. But we'll just do this for now. Okay, and I'm gonna head back to the 2D scene. And now if I run the game, oh wait, I think I didn't put my parts in. Oops. Okay. Now if I run and say I take a U path in. Just double checking. Okay.
Yeah, my touch screen. I keep. Oh shit.
If I drag this U path in now and I run the game, you'll notice that you can see the enemy going around in a simple U shape.
Oh my god, you're raining enemy.
Right, so how many people have managed to get the enemy going in this simple U path shape? I just want to, like a quick show of hands, because this part does, it's a bit complicated, so I will like slow down if people are having issues. So, okay, so one person so far, alright. Are people having issues with the importing of the parts or just setting up, like drawing the actual curves? Like, is the files not being imported properly or just like, yet the files aren't being imported properly? Okay. Let me just see what could be the problem. Anyway, I'll continue on for now with the remaining part of the content, but then anything else that's like still, if you have an issue, raise your hand, we'll get someone to help you out, right? Anyway, we'll go to the next step from now. So once we made this simple U path, we want it so that we can create like waves of these paths, right? We don't want just a single path. It's a bit boring. So we'll create a wave manager. In fact, I think I've already created one, which hopefully is there in the resources zip file that I asked you to download. So in here, there should be in something called scripts. Scripts. Not scripts. Okay, never mind. We'll skip that for now. Okay, let's actually make the enemies fire back at us because like I said, we're going to create two types of enemies. One that just goes along its simple path and one that goes along its path and actually shoots back at us, right? So, go to your main Godot project and then down here in the scenes that you created, we created an enemy scene last time, right? So just right click that and click duplicate and we'll call this one shooting enemy. So, right. Open up the shooting enemy and then I'll just press F to focus, zoom in a bit. Okay, and it's identical, it's the exact same as our normal enemy and we want to change that a little bit, right? So the first thing that we can do, I think, is, we'll work on the enemy bullet that it fires first. So go to the bullet scene that you created last session, right click, duplicate, and we'll call this one enemy bullet. it's gonna be like different because we don't want this bullet to be fired the exact same way that we fire back. So opening this enemy bullet up, right? I'm gonna rename some things just to make it easier. And I'll delete these two sprites because we don't need them anymore. So just hit the delete key when you're selecting on them, right? And in the resources, you should see. Oh, okay, maybe it's not on this one. In the resources that I've given in the support document, under sprites, you should see one that says enemy bullet.png. So I'm going to drag that enemy bullet.png into the file system here. And you should see something like this show up. Again, I'll slow down a bit, but we don't have a lot of time, so I will have to speed things up slightly near the end. Okay. So with this enemy bullet PNG hopefully imported properly, you can just drag him up at the top and like drag him anywhere near the center as well, and you'll create a sprite for that. Right? So with that selected, make sure the transform is reset to 0, 0. And we'll set the scale to 0.5 because we want this bullet to be pretty small. So 0.5 on the X, 0.5 on the Y. And we can adjust this collision shape by clicking on it. And then you should see these orange squares. So I'm going to turn off grid snapping, this button over here. And then just slowly drag them in until they roughly fit the size of our enemy bullet. Okay. So hopefully you should have a enemy bullet sprite like that, a collision shape roughly around it. Okay, now I want you to go to the project and then project settings and just type in layer names. And you'll see a bunch of these different layer names that we can choose from. In the last part, we already defined some of these. If you go to 2D physics, we have player, player bullet, and enemy. Now we're going to create another collision layer. So we'll call this one enemy bullet in layer 4. And in the first part, right, we did a collision matrix, which is kind of how we know which which collision layers interact with which other collision layers. And we're going to like expand on that in this part. So previously, you had just this 3x3 matrix like that, where, for example, the player checks if it's going to be hit by the enemy, right? And the enemy checks if it's going to be hit by the player bullet. So the way you read this matrix is whatever's on the left on the row checks if it is about to be hit by whatever's on the columns, right? And we leave these diagonals like, or we never fill these in. Okay, so now that we're creating an enemy bullet, right? We want an enemy bullet to shoot the player, right? So it needs to interact with the player. It hits the player specifically. Similarly, the player itself, when it gets hit by the enemy bullet, it needs to do something. So it's kind of a diagonal matrix that we're going to be creating, right? This is just a visual representation of it. Okay. So go to the enemy bullet on the parent node. It should be called area 2D or something like that. And then go down to collision down here. And we've already set previously that the player bullet is in this layer here and it shoots at the enemy. We now want it to be an enemy bullet. So we're going to unselect that, select layer 4, which is enemy bullet. And we want the enemy bullet to hit the player, right? So layer is 4, mask is 1. Then when you go back to our enemy scene, our player scene, I'm just gonna open that up. Right, go to the area 2D, which is the hitbox management, and then down here, we're gonna set the mask to enemy and to enemy bullet. So the player can get hit both by the enemy and any projectiles the enemy fires. I'll give everyone some time to just get that set up right now. So hopefully once the collision matrix ends up working, if there is a... Hang on. If we have an enemy bullet in the scene, and you walk into it, you should immediately just die. So like here, okay, the enemy keeps firing. That's fine. We'll figure that out later. But anyway, I'll give everyone some time to kind of set that up and yeah, create the enemy bullet, change the sprites, and change the collision masks. And again, raise your hand and I'll come around and help you out. So yeah, anyone has any issues, just raise your hand.
The enemy is not attached to the platform.
Oh, okay.
It's like right now.
This you just need to be
It's like there, but
Oh.
they're not following. I just added that to last week's.
So the path shouldn't be inside the enemy. But the path would be a policy that you put the enemy inside of it.
I tried that before as well.
Your enemy should be able to follow.
I don't think I have that version.
Yeah, so you want like the path that to be like your path and
Yeah, but I just clicked on the buttons. It's a fun, absolutely.
There should be an enemy going.
Oh yes, it's kind of okay, I actually did know this story. So you click that, and then you just add a point anywhere.
you can try and help
And that will
I just realized how many questions.
It's
You make it into
yeah, so it's like you have this split. Here, the issue is that you have just a PNG and you want to actually attach the enemy inside. So you have just the image, the sprite, but you want to actually attach the sound.
also like attach this onto that.
Yeah, the entire.
Okay.
Oh, but you should bring the sprite back to the enemy. The sprite should be under the enemy.
Oh yeah.
It's under. You left it under.
It should be enemy.
There's a lot of other optimizations you can get.
Do you get why?
Can I see?
Secondly, I don't like
I just needed to know that then like you need to do them separately.
No, it's okay. You don't have to keep putting it inside that. It's alright.
need to, but
Then
I'm gonna practice.
You made that.
Yeah, if you delete that, you can delete this. But I wouldn't recommend
I already play detective
what
game.
what's better is to drag the
Oh wait, I
that's the
Yeah, if we try
So now they talk.
You know what this was? No.
But it's awesome.
just delete what we did.
From each other.
the issue with ChatGPT and Godot is Godot updates quite often, so ChatGPT a lot of the resources are
It kind of makes sense when they just
versions of it. So the script
like probably I feel like
It's showing.
you can see.
Oh my god, it looks like it's fun. Oh my god, it looks like it's fun.
Okay.
Oh my god, that looks.
It looks the same as this one. 为什么每次都这样？
Just like
Not just the game.
and then search the choice.
It was
Sorry.
ChatGPT was good. It just needs to
Blew my mind.
Just wanted to see how
here, because it just speaks.
It's getting there, but we're getting there.
That one shouldn't be.
okay, so
Am I missing like a line?
Because the keyword's not quite working.
Okay. I'm not sure, we're just looking at this.
I'm gonna make a random
I'm gonna make a look at it.
Yeah.
Making some
It's not, there's no more error.
There's a bit of an
Wait,
I didn't go You should be adjusting to the area 2D, not the sprite. Yeah, sorry, wait. No, under collision, not
Sorry.
Where did you change that?
I got.
You have to go to enemy.gd, right? Okay, yeah. Now if you run enemy on the game, what happens?
Okay, I'm gonna
So that's working, right? Yeah.
I don't know.
Then the enemy booth, is that where you're like?
Oh,
I can't get like the prompt because
Oh, yeah.
so what? Yeah, so what we did is we created, like under new path, we created 3 different paths. And each enemy has is under a different path thing. Because here they're all grouped together.
and then you can just right click. I can't believe you gave me that.
Yeah, that's kind of just a part of it. Yeah.
How do you run?
I did nothing. Everything went down. My path goes left. I did nothing.
Yeah, well, sort of working for part. We're experimenting and stuff, yeah, but we're having fun, that's the important thing.
I don't know how to right click on the
Hello? Okay, anyway, now we're gonna start continuing on and making our enemy fire back at our player. Right? So, yeah, we create the enemy bullets, we set the collision layers. Now we're gonna do a decent chunk of coding, so just be prepared. I'm gonna go into the enemy, the enemy.gd script. So down here, do that.
After watching, I've downloaded the information you've got. I'm gonna make this.
Can you guys still hear me? On the back? Yeah? Okay. Alright, so there is a lot of like thing here and I will just type it along with you guys. But, okay. So var has fired equals false. On ready var player is equal to get node. And then we'll just copy this exact. Okay. Get node slash root slash game player. So make sure you get anything that's inside these double quotes. Make sure you get them exactly right because the game won't work otherwise. So like starts with a slash but doesn't end with a slash, right? And then
That's a solution. But I have to could you just like re-click on the name? Does that
Oh, okay, I know that. I think it's
so if I type bullet, the moment I start typing enemy bullet here, you should start seeing like a autocomplete start popping up to help you out. So so it should be wherever you save your enemy bullets, C, right? So that's the player reference and that's the bullet reference. And now down here, I'm gonna type in if parent dot progress ratio greater than 0.5 and has firehead and clear, like so, then we're going to create a shoot function. So we want the enemy to start firing at the bullet. If they're halfway along that path, that's what this progress ratio thing means, and the player actually exists in the scene. Okay? So like it says, the function shoot is not found in the base self, so let's actually define it. Go down here somewhere. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is just do a lot of copy pasting, because in our player.gd script, we already defined a shoot function, right? So I can just take almost all of that and copy it word for word. So Control V, and we have this, but there are some things that we need to change. For example, here it's called can shoot, but we'll call it has fired. And we don't have a delay on this because the enemy in this game is only going to be firing once. So you can remove the fire delay timer. You can keep all of this the same. The last thing we want to do is, this is a little bit of vector maths, so let me just see if I can get a whiteboard marker. Okay, so we have some sort of path that are, oh, this whiteboard marker sucks, that's fine. And let's say this square is our enemy that's going along this path, right? When our enemy hits roughly along halfway across the path, we want it to fire towards where the player is, right? So if the player is like this triangle over here, we want our enemy bullet to be pointing towards this player. Can you guys see it in the back? Because I know this whiteboard marker is really not that great, so hopefully you guys can see most of it. And to do that, we need an angle, right? We need this enemy bullet to rotate in such a way that it points towards the player. This is where you start, you realize how much math is involved in game development. So the one way we can do this is we know where our enemy position is, we know where our player position is, and we can use trigonometry for this. So if you draw like a triangle like that, whoa, and you can use like inverse tan and get this angle here, and then from that we can fire. But an easier way, and one that generalizes even in 3D, is all these positions are actually just vectors, so like things with like direction and magnitude. So if I have some origin point over here, let's say this is my 0, 0, right? Then my player position is just a vector away from the 0, 0, and my enemy position is another vector away from the 0, 0. So if I take the difference of the vectors, I'll find a vector from the enemy to the player, and Godot has a function that gives you the angle of this vector, right? And the angle that it gives you is, well, okay, it's relative to this x-axis. So if I draw my vector angle here, it'll give you this angle like that, right? And that is kind of what we want. We want to rotate our enemy bullet. Sorry, again, the marker is really not that great. But we want to rotate our enemy bullet in such a way that it points to where the player position was, right? If we move around, we don't want our bullet to track the player. We just want it to fire roughly in that same angle, right? So this was just kind of some of the math behind it. And I might not have explained it the best, but the main thing you got to know is there's a lot of vectors involved in game dev. And like some of this stuff is very simple because Godot has functions to help you out. But when you're trying to do like complicated stuff in 3D, you like knowing how vectors work makes things a lot easier. Okay, so now I'm gonna do basically what I was talking about with the difference of the two vectors, right? So we have our player variable here that then we can get its position, right? So let me just, oops. Okay. If I, hang on. So we want to set the bullet instance, which is the clone of the bullet that we're firing. We want to set its rotation. So I'm going to set its global rotation, right? And if I hover over this, you can see that it's in radians, which is a little bit annoying, but we have to work with it, right? So I'm going to find the difference vector. So that is the difference between the player position and the enemy position, which I can get by doing player.global position. Oops. Minus my current global position. So I can just do that. Right? And that is essentially that exact vector that I was talking about before. And we can use dot angled. That's how Godot like gives you the angle of a vector. So if I hover over this, okay, yeah. And then the last thing we need to do is, I'll just go back over here again. Okay, you can't really see this really well, but I'm using this, whatever difference of angles I get, it'll give me something like that. But I need it to be starting from this point here. Okay. Okay, so if I have these two vectors here, and I have the difference vector, I want it to be offset by 90 degrees, so it like rotates the right way, basically. Can't really draw that there well, but that's why I'm gonna add a minus, like 90 minus this angle that I get. And in radians, 90 degrees is just pi over 2. So pi over 2 minus that, and that is the direction I want my bullet to be rotating, right? So we'll set that. And then lastly, we want to make, in our previous bullet script, in the last part, right? Let me just bring that up. Sorry. In our previous bullet script, the bullet just translates, it goes straight up. It doesn't care which direction it's facing. It doesn't like move in reference to its angle, and we want to change that. So just down here, all you have to do is just do dot rotated rotation. Which just means we are moving this vector by how the bullet is rotated. Okay. Anyway, I will keep this slide up so anyone who's still typing and hasn't typed everything down can just follow along. But this is the enemy script that we're modifying. Now, if I run my game, and everything hopefully works out, I should see that the enemy starts firing bullets at me. When they go along halfway in the path, which they are not for some reason. Oh, whoops, sorry. I need to set has fired to true in the beginning, so I can actually fire my first shot, but then after that I can't fire any more shots. So now, okay, whoops, the angles are pointing the wrong way.
Translating my web implementation to a native implementation because it doesn't run on the web. Web application,
Let me just try doing that. I think that's the correct way. Oops.
I'm trying to figure out why it's
That. And let me just double check that I haven't accidentally rotated anything the way I don't want it to.
I just realized I don't know what happened. It's gonna be a pre-made thing.
So I don't know what to say.
Like a kaiju.
This is not proxy.
So for some reason the
Well, it's better than mine.
Oh yeah. One of them is
Okay, whoops, I got the 90 degrees angle offset wrong. But now if I run the game, and it was supposed to be pi over 2 plus, sorry, not minus. But now if I'm running the game, you can see that as the enemies move along that path, when they hit the halfway point, they start firing towards roughly where I am. And if I get hit by one of the bullets, which I'm going to do so in right now, I die. Oh, I should be dying. We'll worry about that in a second. Anyway, so we have our bullet, like our enemies now firing towards our player, and we'll cover some of the more easier stuff because that was a lot of code and a lot of like mechanic stuff. But the next 3 topics are hopefully a lot easier and smoother to get through. Yeah, so that's a little break there if you want, but we are kind of running short on time, so I might skip this. Okay, we'll work on animation. This is probably the easiest, most straightforward topic so far. There's 0 scripting involved, so like basically anyone can do this section, right? I'm going to go to my player scene here, and I have this sprite 2D node. So I'm going to right click that and click on change type right here. If I click on that, I can change it into this thing known as an animated sprite 2D, which is essentially what we want if we want to do an animation. So again, I'll just right click, change type, animated sprite 2D, and click change. And now in the inspector, we have this property called animation, right? So I'm going to click on this empty button, create a new sprite frames. And when I do that, hopefully you guys should be able to see, I think it's not showing properly, but you'll see a little window here called sprite frames at your bottom, right? And this is where you define the animations for your sprites. Okay, we'll do a really basic propeller animation. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go to the sprites folder in my resources, click on this new, and you should see like a bunch of these simple two-step sprites. Sorry. Okay, so my player, I'm going to take player shape green 1 and player shape green 2, just drag them in here, like so. Okay, and now if I click on this play button, you'll see that the things, it's like animated, but it's not really moving in a smooth, controlled manner. So I'm going to now set this to 8 FPS, that's my animation speed, and set the frame duration to 0.3. So if I click on this and then type 0.3, you can start seeing that my player looks like he has a propeller that's spinning. Right? It's a very basic animation, it's only 2 frames, but it sells the effect. Right? So now, like for example, and then last thing you need to do, sorry, is make sure you click on this little A button here that says autoplay on load. that just means that the moment the game starts, your player starts spinning. So now if I run the game, you'll see that my player has like a little basic propeller animation as he moves around. It's kind of hard to see, but I mean, you can see it there, right? And we'll do the same on the other enemies. But just before I do that, I'll just give everyone some time to get that working. So again, change your sprite 2D to an animated sprite 2D, and then create these sprite frames. And I'll like give everyone some time to get that done.
Okay, hang on, I need to.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, like trying to get that stuff worked out, I can just raise your hand, I'll come help you out.
To be honest, we don't.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so we're kind of.
So this should be the
really
rotation that
behind
we're trying to change
the
the rotation, right? Because we wanted to point to a direction. Yeah, I'll put that one because that was a lot of coding that I didn't really do. And I made a mistake, so it should be a
Like.
plus. But everything else seems
I don't know why it's not better.
So just skip right now. I'm just
Yeah, it's like.
The trooper.
sorry, I made a mistake. This should be set to true.
Got me excited there.
Everything's like not founded and I'm just a PowerPoint.
It's okay, don't worry.
Workshop myself.
We're having fun.
Where's it?
Oh, we also have another question.
Yeah.
Download
No, but I just
How do you know?
Because I for graduate role last year. I got it this year. It took 7 months.
This workshop, like, has all this.
Because they were doing, I heard it for the
They just don't like pointing.
You saw my name.
yeah, they had like a list of people.
Yeah, and just click on
Physics and get done.
Because it's connected. Like they discuss like shooting.
This just
This
like
is
sharp.
really generic script about both. It doesn't matter. So, rotated, rotation. That just now makes it
Yeah.
relative to the directions being
Oh yeah,
Then we have this
Okay,
so this doesn't have a root script. It's probably right. Drag it in.
All the roles
Has a script attached.
That usually people get.
Yeah, if I agree,
basically
drag it.
That's it. But that was one of the very first things I did.
And now I run it. That's
That's
why
why
it's
like space effect.
You can change that to the enemy speed if you want it to go too fast. But yeah. If anyone having any other issues,
Should use VB10 because that's one thing that because I learned. So when I first very started reading it, it's like I found it immediately.
it's not moving down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
This one.
there's no way.
Yeah. Oh, this one. Yeah. This one's especially really cool.
In the part 2D node, right? If all the channels are working correctly, as I drag this, it's moving. So this part is working fine,
Position's good.
Stuff that thing you just drag things. Yeah, that's what they just keep form.
Okay, wait. So it's there, it's just not moving. That's because I'm guessing the ending script I changed.
Yeah. But yeah, it's very like you just click this and drag things over. You didn't have to do much of the like coding cuts. I barely know where half these things.
Just add your name, do you know?
If it hasn't fired yet.
Speed and is the enemy speed.
The
Okay, that's fine.
Is the
So
game
this
within
one is the enemy sprite, which is, again, they have really simple names. This is just a image. It doesn't do anything.
Ethical way.
And I'll put the actual enemy scene that we created. Well, it was right here.
No wonder the game jams in like 1 hour. Look at us go.
That here. Because that's the one that has all the core and everything that's actually run. I'm saying this was resource as well.
If I close the resource, it's back in area. Yeah, resource.
Keep shooting even though
Let's get back to
has high resistance, we keep shooting
Much simpler.
Well, apparently this is meant to be simpler. What? What? Oh yeah, that was yeah.
I actually know nothing.
I think the problem is, yeah, I was doing them all jobs. It's just that there was a little bit of a rush. That's kind of why everything is
Like, I don't know why I just kind of like, why don't we just get a like game design workshop?
yeah, you did right.
Why would they update it?
I think it was there.
We've got all these activities coming up.
Now we just need to change the box because it's moving the way we want it.
Change it back together, yeah. You know, like all like game
Yeah. That's where you are.
animation workshop. That's
Well, it doesn't list.
yeah.
But
You got a few things.
I got pinged by.
It'd be cool. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, like we could do like a small like little group project. Like there's no time. We just work on it.
Yeah, there's a lot of like experimenting you just have to do.
That'd be a fun project to do.
Now hopefully you
Back to frustrating this game. That is true.
I still don't have one.
I really wanted to like give it a but there was so many issues. So you love animation, that's why
So I just overheard that. I just.
if I drag them here and then it creates this place. You can see that it works, it's very small. So this is the each frame lasts very short. So the reason I didn't just increase the speed really high is because it'll make every animation the player has very fast, but we don't want the player to now
No, first we just go shooting enemies.
What do they do? They do this.
sorry.
Easy.
This part, the animation created. If not, you have to use a script to run it, basically. So now you can see my guys moving
What's up?
The mushroom.
我记得你们有一个给你们班级就是basic.
The enemy quite quickly get that working for you guys want, but
Yeah, just implementing the physical logic.
oh, okay. That's fine. I'll go over that a little bit later, but I'll cover these easy ones that you guys like. So that probably not explanation. It's just two sprites. As long as it goes very fast, people don't really know. That's like a lot of things you can do. Do an animation that might be like make it go really fast. People don't do it.
I mean, the U kind of work.
Pretty mass system.
Alright. You got this, you know? What's the
What's happening? But
what's
it's just a vibe.
It's just one thing.
Also, I can't find out. There's one thing about
Sorry, as fired.
and I can't find out. There's one thing about yeah. It's also
That might have been a typo. So you go down.
I don't like it.
How can I get one?
Okay, you can see how the bullet
It should be small. Yeah.
so that bullet then
It's like blinding. I mean, it's blinding
we'll just
out
fix it for you.
energy.
And then all the boulders kind of
break mass 我以为有3个 typo
We can get back to that. Okay, we'll circle back to that. We can jump in the chat now.
Yeah, I think you should do that.
We appreciate creativity.
your mask should never be updated. You should never be checking against yourself.
Yeah, now I'm doing.
I should be checking against the enemy and the enemy bullet. Now, hopefully the enemy hits me.
The lethal
60
Oh, it's
that guy, there's a little bit of process, you can see how that guy is firing.
I do believe on myself.
Yeah,
See as that guy's firing,
Maybe
there's just a bit of offset, like a bit of a gap. So you can fix that by somewhere you're transferring to.
Okay. It's like I'm trying my best to find it. That's the only thing. Yeah.
There's a difference. So this is the correct.
How do you like peek out?
Yeah, this is the correct.
Yeah, it's alright,
I'll look at yours later.
You're right, just use the man.
Can I just get like a live demo just to see how it describes?
Oh, yeah.
Very simple.
You have to start now. We'll make things out, yeah.
I think this is like the resources.
It's a situation of that destroyed the try the
The seeds the enemy from like the new resources, and the new one hasn't been updated with all the
Let's
code you put in.
get start back again. So it's like delete all the existing
So
cards, add a
you
new
can just delete these enemies and put back in.
maybe it's maybe this is still a shooting, so it's like so this is the
other enemy seed, so you don't get confused.
Yeah.
I think this is the one that is. You can double click it.
I wish you guys could. Maybe. Let's do it now.
Okay, for anyone who's making the enemy bullets and they're pointing the wrong direction, I made a typo and then I may not have like pointed it out properly, but in your enemy.gd script, there should be pi/2 plus, not minus. Okay, if I do minus, it's like a 180-degree difference, which we don't want, so pi/2 plus whatever the angle was before. Okay. Anyway, now that we got the propeller sprites on the player working, we're going to do the exact same thing for the enemies, right? So go back to the enemy scene. I'll just bring that up. So here, and we're going to replace this normal sprite 2D with an animated sprite 2D. Right? Create an animation sprite frames resource here. And then I will drag the sprites that we've made already. So, and you can use whatever color you want. So there's green, red, yellow. Since that player ship is green, I'm going to make the enemy ships red. So I'll drag that one in, right? And again, make sure your animation is autoplay on load. Click the A button. and I'll set the speed up to maybe 8 FPS, and set each frame duration to be 0.3. So now if I click the play, you can see that there's like a little propeller animation on the enemy. And the last animation we'll do is an explosion, which is a lot more interesting than the two simple propeller ones that we've done so far. It's a bit hard to see, but hopefully you can tell that these enemies have like a little propeller spinning as they come towards you. Okay, let's do like something a lot more interesting than that. Let's make the explosion animation, right? So, first thing I'm gonna do is in the enemy sprite 2D, click on this plus button, the one that has a page and then a plus, add animation, and we'll call this one death. Okay, now in the resources that I've asked you to download, under sprites, there should be, I believe, hang on. Scripts, audio. Oh. Okay, for some reason the explosion is not there. That's okay. We can add them by clicking on this little grid button over here. Okay, and just keep just look in your resources sprites. Somewhere you should have this thing called tiles packed. So if I click on that, this is all the sprites that the game I can use, right? And I want these 4 sprites here. These are my explosion sprites. So I'll click one. Set this to be, set the size of each thing to be 16. So if I do that, now it's split evenly. So let's say I want 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are my 4 sprites for my explosion animation. Add the frames, and you can see them over here. So I have a 4-frame explosion animation, right? If I run this, you can see that it's not amazing, but we can change that by, let's say, making this 8 frames, removing the loop, so it doesn't, like the explosion doesn't loop over itself, right? And now we need to do some code. So first I'll give everyone some time to actually create this animation. So make sure you're an enemy, change your sprite to an animated sprite, so you should see this kind of icon, and add a new death animation. To add the sprites, click this sprite sheet button, and somewhere in your resources, there should be a tilespack.png. So you can select that and then drag and choose which ones you want. If these squares aren't exactly on them, make sure the size is 16 by 16 pixels. So I'll give everyone some time, and yeah, that doesn't work out. And then you can just drag and choose the ones that you want, which is these 4 for now. Again, if anyone has any questions or like having trouble, just raise your hand. I'll come and help you out, or someone else will. So if anyone has any like things that they're trying to work out, just raise your hand. I'll help you out. Yeah, you can tell the looping.
The solution was I just need some crazy.
You don't want your explosion to be like repeating. You don't want it to autoplay reverse. We can only set one animation to autoplay reverse, so it'll be the default.
20 minutes is hypothetical.
Okay, I'm gonna assume everyone or most of you guys have the explosion animation working. So now we need to connect this explosion animation to our enemy death, right? When an enemy dies, we want it to explode. So we'll go to the enemy.gd script and make some modifications. I'll try. After typing the script, I'll give everyone some time to actually look at it because I think I've been going really fast with the typing. So I'll slow down. Okay.
It's fine.
I did check this one.
Note here, the moment I start typing, it'll autofill. So if your name is something, it's named something different. As long as it's called like Sprite 2D or Animated Sprite 2D or anything that looks like the name of, sorry, the name of this sprite here, that should be fine. So in my case, it's called Sprite 2D. And this signal is the one that happens when something hits, like when the enemy detects something, and what we did last time is it just deletes itself, right? So let's change that a little bit.
Oh, so just
Okay. One thing I'm going to do is delete this queue free right now, and I'll tell you why I've done that in a second. But I'll just give everyone some time to type that stuff down. The only changes I've made is at the very top. I've created this. So onReady var animated sprite is equal to $ sprite 2D. And at the very bottom, I have this. So I can just, I'll keep this one open up so you can see the actual changes highlighted in red. Okay, I'll move on now. So now if everything is well and running, and if I play the game, the moment I shoot at the enemy, hopefully it blows up. So you can see that you're getting these explosion animations that are popping up. But the problem is, right, two things. First, the more I keep firing, the bigger the explosion animation gets, which is not something we want. And second thing is the explosions don't disappear, right? So those are both issues that we want to fix. Alright. To do this, we need to make sure that we wait until our animation is finished to kill to actually delete the node, right? And we're going to use signals. We used them a lot last workshop, and we're going to have to use them this workshop as well. So we have, if you go on your Sprite 2D node selected, and you go to node, you can see that it has a bunch of these signals. So it has animation changed, finished, looped. We want to wait until the animation is finished, right? So take this, double click it, and you can connect it to our enemy. So make sure this is selected, and click connect. And then in your enemy.gd script, you should notice that at the very bottom, you'll get like an onSprite2D animation finished thing connected over here. And double check you see this green icon, because that means the signal is actually connected properly, right? So then all we have to do here is, once the animation is finished, we just do queue free. One more thing I want to point out is in the enemy animations, the death animation should not be looping. This code won't work if it's looping. You can see here, okay, well, I can't show it. I don't think it's showing properly, but animation finish only runs if the thing is not looping. So now if I run and I shoot at the enemy, you notice that it explodes and disappears. So we get a simple explosion animation that we can put for our enemies. And if you want, you can apply this exact same logic to the player, right? When the player gets hit, play that explosion animation and then delete the player. I just haven't done it because we're running a bit short on time. I'll give everyone some time now to just do that. So what we did is we connected this signal to our thing and we just moved the queue free from over here down over here. again, if anyone's having any questions, just raise your hand. Oh, it's not. Oh, okay. It might be really fast because you said the enemies. Do you want it this fast or do you want me to slow it down? Oh, right. You said the exact same thing. Okay. Can you change your frame for a second?
Where are the
enemies? Oh wait, hang on. This must have done something.
There's no enemies. There's no enemies.
He only has friends.
Yeah, your main character only has friends. Yes, it's a good area too.
Yeah, that is true.
That's here. And then support by that. And that's a branch of
No, already did this last time. I couldn't undo it.
yeah.
All this hot.
Yeah, I know.
So which one
I know.
And you set everything to like 1, right? Like
I just forget about the shooting at
okay, no, it is 1. That is easy.
What if you just copy it?
the instructions?
No, it's like a string.
Like
Maybe somehow to
So we've got 4 layers. Alright,
Oh, yeah.
so this should be
Oh, no, it's just a very small thing. The D is a capitalized.
Oh, this one?
So like very small stuff.
so you click which one you want.
I'm not sure. This is definitely something I've never had. There you go. Set it to 60 because I believe it might be running at 1
Okay. Okay, good.
Layers like the things that can get collided with. So it's like you get hit and then Mars is like if there's a collision just ignore it. I think that's my estimated guess. Well, can't hit it, but it should be. I don't think it should hit it.
Maybe it is.
So that's part of the
The
collision.
explosion is.
How's the game get going?
not too bad. I'm just
You're doing well.
yeah. I'm just stuck on yeah.
So sorry, fire at the ending.
Yeah. I'm up to this.
It might be
Yeah.
It should be much, but it might be moving a little bit because of just how many frames it is.
We didn't download.
Let's stop moving. I think that was just the physics thing of moving really, really fast, so it looks like they're moving.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So we just selected this one because we can
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And these are all the similar things. Sujay, you want to wait until the animation is finished?
Oh, I did. I don't know. I just
Get tree.
yes.
Get parallel.
How are things going? If you guys are experimenting, it's not fine. But if anyone's doing like the animation or the explosion and something's not working there, just like just hang on.
Just with
I'm so confused.
Referencing. Yes,
So I
referencing.
got like,
What did you
so this is like
yeah, that makes
right, yeah. So I've just like copied this code from here.
So
I'm trying to
reach
get
the
mine.
following goes to the area
I think
description
it's like
and
exactly the
use
same
the
code.
properties to.
Oh no, I fixed it already.
So you.
try closing it.
So we just
So
got to
it
copy
initially came up in the
Oh.
what they did in the
Right, okay, there's two things I think I see.
enemy vault.
First,
We go to that. They said,
Yeah, at least I can see a couple of rusts.
Wait, so that one is that
This is my window.
see
and then the other thing is
from the bullet
What's
screen.
going on?
hit the enemy.
Yeah, it's like this is the same.
Doesn't
It's just going up based on
just
like
like
the but the rotator makes it up based on like
No, this is like too complex for me to debug anything.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
like
because yeah, what it can
individual levels. So I don't
because
know.
so the layer is the thing itself. The mask must be what it can hit, right? Because this is the player.
oh yes.
four is quite fast.
Well, this is my render.
No,
It's
this is
supposed to
the
work.
this is the bullet for the player.
I'm trying to get it to not.
So if we go to the enemy,
And it doesn't.
so the layer should be
It's very hard, isn't it? Yeah.
So like,
You can adjust the speed.
and the
it
mask.
works in a browser. That was like do stuff in the browser.
Oh, does the explosion animation work?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to port it so that
Oh. You want something?
it doesn't work. Like if I run it,
Hello? So we're done with the animation section now, and I'll just go to the last section, which is the audio. This is probably the most straightforward, even like it's even easier than the animation stuff. So
I'm just using libraries.
we'll go to that.
Otherwise I'd have to write like platform.
Oh, also, if you want to do more like interesting animations, like something more complicated than those simple sprite animations we did, come to the animation workshop that we're running on September 3rd. There we'll cover all different types of animations, different animation techniques. So yeah, if you're interested in that, make sure to come for that. Okay, so that's for now. I might skip the score UI thing and go ahead straight to the audio. If we have time, we'll do the UI. So skip this. Okay. Audio, right? Godot uses basically one node to do all the audio processing and like playing in 2D. So and that node is called Audio Stream Player. So down here, right? Let's create our background music. That's like the first thing we would want in our game. So go to our game node, add a child, and just type audio. And the first thing you will see is like these two ones. We don't need this 2D one. You can just use the normal audio stream player. So make sure it has a white icon. Right? Okay, and I'll in the inspector you can see that it has a stream or a track that it plays, and we can get our track from the resources that I put at the top. So here there should be, hang on, there should be something called audio, I believe. Audio, yep. And then I'm just gonna drag and drop all these different audio files into my game. Okay, and if I'll pick background music.mp3, drag it into this stream here, right? And if I click playing, oh wait, it might be a. Hang on, let me see. Hopefully that doesn't sound too loud. It's not as loud as I hoped it would be, but. That's like the background effect that's playing. And if I turn autoplay to on, then the moment I start running my game, you'll start getting a little bit of background music going on. Okay. And next thing we want is to actually have a little bit of sound effects. So when I fire and when I explode, right? I'm just gonna move this curve path to the right place. It's been bothering me the entire time. Okay, so let me just see if that's working. So there will be two sound effects that we'll add. One is whenever the player fires a bullet, and the other is whenever an enemy explodes. Okay? So head to player, add a audio stream 2D. Sorry, an audio stream player down here. Okay. And we can just drag in the shoot SFX into. Oh, actually, sorry. Delete my bad. Delete this node. We don't need this. We can just directly drag it into a scene like that, and it'll immediately create it. Which will Okay, wait. We don't want that. That's the wrong type of node. Anyway, I'll just add it normally. So the white audio stream player here, and go to stream, and I can quick load, or I can just drag it in. We want the shoot sound effects. That happens when the player fires a bullet, right? And now we need to control this using the script because we need to get the input and then only play the sound, right? So, again, just double checking, make sure you have audio stream player here, make sure you've imported the assets, and then all you gotta do is just drag it and put it here. Okay. Go to script and go to player.gd, and in the shoot function is where obviously we want a sound effect, right? So all I have to do is type, let me full screen, sorry. Type ampersand, sorry, not ampersand, $sign. $sign, and then you should be having one that says audio stream player, or whatever the name of that node is called, dot play. And that's all you have to do, that's literally it. So now, when I run the game, every time I fire, you get a little sound effect. And we'll do a similar thing for when the enemy explodes. So I'll first give everyone some time to just get that sorted out. But what we're going to do after is essentially the exact same thing, right? Make sure your player has this node, child node. Make sure you set the right track. And then in the scripts, all you have to do is just type audio stream player.play. In fact, we can copy this exact same line and use it in our enemy. So in the enemy script, when our enemy blows up, which is this function here, right? I can just paste that line in. And now all we need to do is actually set the tracks. So go to the enemy, add a audio stream player, the white one here, and we set the track to explosion sound effects. I was going to put this as well, but again, we're running really short on time, so we'll skip that. Explosion sound effects, drag it in here, and if I play, hopefully everything is working. But whenever the player explodes, you get a little sound effect. And then after this is where you're like, feel free to customize the game however you want. Like for example, you just saw a bunch of curve parts there, but I can obviously add a lot more. I'll give everyone some time to just get that audio stuff sorted out. So if you have any questions now, just raise your hand. I'll come help you out. But with that will probably be most of the content that we can cover in the 5 minutes we have left. So yeah, that's just a little thing of how we drag and drop it. And I think, yeah, there's also some places you can go to find sound for your game. So if you're doing the game jam that's on Friday, these sites are really useful, especially this one, sfxr.me. It's where I used to create the sound. So I'm just going to go there and show you there for a quick second. Hopefully the internet's not terrible. Oh, I guess it is, okay. Lovely, the Wi-Fi seems to have stopped. Okay. But just head to these sites. This one is especially, okay, let's load it up. So you can see all these different ones. And these are all generated like using, by like controlled. You can control them. So if I do this, you can get different sound effects you want. Explosions. Stuff like that. So it's very useful if you're making really simple retro-based games. And you can like, say I like a sound, I can change it a little bit by, yeah, just say different sound effects. I think that's all that we can cover at this time. I did have a lot more, like not a lot more, a decent chunk more planned, but it's just like the way it is. Some things weren't working out. Hopefully you did manage to learn a lot, especially about the animation and the audio stuff, and hopefully you got some parts of the game to be working. This is just a little QR code for a feedback form, and just like give me your thoughts on this so we can improve next time. And lastly, if anyone is like still wants to stay back and like get that game properly sorted out, just stay over and I'll come and help you out. But that being said, that's the end of the workshop. Thank you all for coming, and hopefully you can come to our other workshops as well, and especially participate in the game jam that we're running this Friday. It's our main semester game jam. It's where there's cash prizes, and it's a good way to like get started and apply all these skills you've learned. Yeah, thank you all for coming.
I know, me too, but it's like, something's on me. You look at out. Yeah, done the because it's already on. It's on.
You wanted to.